Hey guys, it's July 23rd, 2024, and I hope everybody's having a wonderful day so far. I want to start off today's video with a quote. And the quote goes like this: "Those who fight for the future live in it today." And that's by Ayn Rand. And the reason I want to talk about this today is because I've just been thinking about fighting and not giving up this morning. Often I think about, I'm just thinking as I'm doing things before I do my videos every day. And it could be something simple as I'm just doing the dishes, or I'm just watching something on television, or I'm reading something, or I just get inspiration just from thoughts in my mind most of the time. Or I might get an inspiration from watching a video and it'll pop a thought into my mind, or I'm reading something and I'll get inspiration from that, and it'll make me start thinking about something that I've experienced and how it relates to this topic. And while I was working this morning, I was thinking to myself about not giving up and how that applies so much to this, and how that applies so much to this topic. Because there was a period of time, and I don't talk about this very often on here. Now I try to be inspirational and motivational. I don't often talk about, how I was at one point in time, and how hopeless I felt, and how depressed I was, how deep down and dark things had gotten for me in my mind. And I just don't really speak about that very often. But there was a time, especially when I was a really bad alcoholic, when I was in the middle of my drinking, things got really dark for me. And I felt very hopeless during that period of time as well. But I would have to say that the most hopeless and down I ever felt was when I was laying in the bed and I could not get up. And there was a period of time there where I thought about giving up all the time. I really, really did. And, I had some really dark thoughts that I was thinking about on a daily basis. And I would think about it for a majority of the day. It would just sit on my mind all day, because I often thought to myself, about the burden that I was causing onto my family, the burden that I was causing on my wife. My children are having to watch their father die in front of their eyes. I couldn't even get out of the bed. I remember my kids coming and giving me a hug in the morning before they'd go to school as I laid there in the bed. And when they got home from school, how excited I was to see them, because I'd been laying there all day long, alone, laying in the bed, and how that made me feel. I spent a lot of time alone, laying there, with no one to talk to, and it was the most hopeless I've ever felt in my entire life. And like I said, there was often the thought of I wanted to release that burden off of my family, and I didn't want them to sit there and watch me go out like that. I was declining so fast. I looked horrible. And I could see the fear in my children's eyes every day when they came to tell me bye in the morning. Like, is he going to still be here when we get home from school? And I could just see it. And especially now, the way that my children approach me versus the way they did then, I really can see the difference. Because when they tell me goodbye in the mornings now before they leave to school, I don't see that fear in their eyes, and that sadness anymore. Now, they're at the point now, they don't worry about that like that as much, I don't think. You just don't see it. I don't see it in them anymore. They don't talk about it. They don't seem like they're down about it anymore, because I could tell it was really taking a toll on my children for a long time. I've been doing a lot of yard work this morning, and I guess all that does is just got my mouth super dry. I also had to take some Zofran just a minute ago, and it's got me like really tired right now. that might be what's causing my mouth to be so dry. But anyway, just thinking back on those times and how hopeless I felt and how much I wanted to give up, and my future looked pretty bleak. It really did. I mean, I've talked about this, but the doctor told me, that at the end of September, as I left that hospital, that I had 1 year left to live, and that I probably would not see the holiday season the next year, which was last Christmas. She said, you're not going to be here next year. And I went and had my TIPS procedure that January of 2023. Right after that, a few months after I'd gotten out of the hospital, and because I found out that I had a bunch of blood clots. My portal vein was almost completely blocked off. Blood clot in my splenic vein. My spleen was extremely swollen during that period of time, and I had that TIPS procedure, and that was what was going to save my life, and it was going to help to get the ascites off. And I had a lot of hope going into that procedure. And when I woke up, I kid you guys not, it was one of the most painful things I've ever experienced in my entire life. I remember waking up, I remember it like it was yesterday. I opened my eyes and they were pushing me down the hall, and I was watching the lights. I mean, it was just like a movie. I kid you not. I remember opening my eyes, and as I was going down the hallway, I could see those fluorescent lights going like this down, and I was screaming bloody murder because my stomach hurt so bad. And they took me into the room, and they administered me a bunch of pain medicine, and it wasn't working. I begged the nurse to bring me in a bag of ice. I had big bags of ice all over my stomach because it hurt so bad. And after I got all the ice on, that's actually what really helped to alleviate the pain. I had one of those pain buttons. So I had a machine with pain medicine in it. I don't remember what it was, but I could hit the button, and I don't remember how often it would allow me to do it, but it was like every 30 seconds or every minute or something. I could keep hitting that button, and I was hitting it, and it just wasn't doing anything. And once I got that ice on there, it finally settled down. But once I finally got to the point where I was calm enough for them to talk to me, the doctor had spoken to my mother and to my wife and told them the news. I didn't hear this firsthand from the doctor, but my mom came and told me that the procedure didn't work out, and they could not get through that clot in my portal vein. And a doctor came in the next day and explained everything to me, that basically they could not break through. And it wasn't the doctor did the procedure either. I guess he was in the room, but it wasn't my surgeon. And which is a whole story in itself, by the way. I had already, I was in a really bad state of mind when I went and had that procedure. And I don't think I've ever talked about this on here, but I had already talked with the doctor about having the TIPS procedure, because I went down to Charleston and met with my liver doctor, and they found out about the blood clots. They decided they were going to do a TIPS procedure, and then they told me that in like October. They couldn't get me in until January. I had spoken to the surgeon, the interventional radiologist. I had met him a couple times about this procedure. The day before I went in for surgery, I got a phone call, and they told me that my surgeon had an emergency and was not going to be performing my procedure, and that they were assigning me another surgeon who I'd never met. I did not meet him until the morning of my procedure, when he walked into the room and talked to me about the surgery they were about to do that day. And I was very scared. I never met this guy. And when I first met him, he wasn't a very, he's kind of a dry guy. Now, this is the same doctor who saved my life. And after I had the second procedure, but just the way that he came out, he's just very dry, not a lot of personality, great doctor. But it just scared me. He didn't really talk to me a whole lot before the procedure. I went in, and then I woke up, and it didn't work out. But the point is that I went in for this procedure already afraid, and then I wake up, and it didn't work out, and I was in a ton of pain because they had cut off the circulation to my spleen. And I was laying in the hospital while my spleen died inside of me. And that was a huge letdown. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. I came back home, and a week later, the ascites, and I had gotten the ascites off, but the ascites came back full-fledged, even worse than the first time I had got. Well, that was actually the second time I had really bad ascites. And this time was the third time I'd had bad ascites, and this time it got really, really bad. And I'll never forget, I had to go see my GI doctor. It was a week after I'd gotten home from the hospital. The fluid came on within a matter of like a day and a half. My stomach just filled with fluid, and I could not stand up in the shower to take a shower before I went to my doctor's appointment that day. My wife had to go to work. She came home to pick me up to take me to the doctor, and I'll never forget getting up out of the bathtub, because I had to lay in the bath. And my stomach was killing me during that period of time, and I would often soak in the bath too because it would hurt so bad. And I stood up out of the bathtub and looked at myself, because there's a mirror right across from our bathtub. And I got up and I looked at myself in the mirror as I was drying off, and I could see my stomach and how big it was all over again. And my body, I was skin and bones everywhere else. And I just had this huge belly, and I just burst out into tears. I was so upset that I was back in the same boat again, after I'd done all this hard work to get it off the last time, and the TIPS procedure was a failure. I was just so lost. I knew that my time was very limited, and I was lost. I was hopeless. I had no hope for the future. Just like when I was a really bad drinker. Before I got sick, I had no hope for the future. I didn't see any way out. I thought that was going to be the rest of my life. I knew that one day I was probably going to end up getting sick because of my drinking, and I wasn't feeling well for a very long time leading up to the point where I ended up in the hospital. I was throwing up every single day, all kinds of stuff. I just did not feel good. And the point is, just like back then, I did not see any way out of my alcoholism. I did not think I would ever be able to stop. I had tried so many times. I had basically just given up at that point. And then going back to this past time when I was, I just had my TIPS procedure, the ascites came back, and I just lost hope. I got very depressed, and things got very dark for me. And I often contemplated really bad things. I'm not going to go into detail, but I think you could probably imagine what I'm talking about here. And I just thought about how much extra work I was putting on my wife and my children, and how they weren't able to be kids because they had this huge weight on them, going to school every single day. I'd given my son a baseball cap. When we bought my tractor, they gave me a free hat. I have a Yanmar tractor, and they gave me a Yanmar baseball cap, and it was a camouflage cap just like this. And I'd given it to my son, and my son had an outdoor activity day at his school, like a field day or something. And my wife went up there to go hang out with him that day for his field day. And he had taken that hat with him to school, and he lost it and had a meltdown and told my wife over and over again, I cannot lose that hat. My dad gave that to me. What if he dies and I lose the hat? And my wife and him ran all over the place and finally found the hat, but he was so scared that he had lost that hat, something I'd given to him. There's just these little things like that kept happening. And I just sat there very depressed and very sick for a long time. And I've talked about this, but I watched Jennifer Schaefer, and she was walking around the park with her daughter, and it inspired me. She was talking about how she was on hospice, and she got off of hospice and decided to get up and start moving around. Something in me just clicked, and I said, if she can do it, I can too. And I got up and I started moving around. And it wasn't like I was doing a lot. I was doing little things here and there. And I gradually started to build up a little bit more strength, and the ascites started to go away. And I started really watching. I went and saw a dietitian, and the dietitian instructed me on what I needed to be eating and all that stuff, because I couldn't eat anything. Every time I went to the doctor, I had malnutrition. I wasn't eating at all. I couldn't. I couldn't get anything down. For one, I had no appetite. I was constantly nauseous. My stomach was always hurting, and I felt so bloated from the ascites. I just couldn't eat. But my doctor instructed, the dietitian instructed me, like, you got to make yourself do it. Like if it's only one bite, you got to take one bite and wait 10 minutes and take another bite. And he told me, you need to start trying to drink protein shakes. If that's the only thing you can get down, you need protein in your diet. He got me on my diet. I started feeling a little bit better. Started taking vitamins, and my health started to get better. And I started to get my hope back. And as I started to get my hope back every day, I started to get more hope and more hope. And things started to brighten for me. And I just told myself, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep fighting. I have to keep fighting. And here I am today. They told me I wouldn't be here last Thanksgiving, that I would be gone. And I'm still here. Because I didn't give up. I kept pushing forward. Even though I didn't, in the back of my mind, I didn't for sure know what was going to happen. But I just kept hoping and kept pushing. And that's my point for today's video, is that no matter where you're at in your life right now, if you're sick, and you're laying in your bed and you just don't see any hope in the future for what you have going on, your doctors have diagnosed you with all kinds of things, keep pushing forward and don't give up. Or if you're at home right now and you've been trying over and over and over again to stop drinking, and you keep relapsing and going back to drinking again, and you just don't see any hope for the future, and you think that you're never going to be able to change yourself, don't give up. Keep pushing forward. If you keep thinking that you're a failure because you keep relapsing, you're not a failure. You're not a failure by any means at all. You're not a failure until you stop trying. And they say practice makes perfect, and Rome wasn't built in a day, and all these kinds of quotes like that. That applies to this as well. If you keep falling down and relapsing, and you keep picking yourself back up, you are fighting for your life, and you're trying your best. Keep pushing. Just don't give up. You never know what's in the future for you. You have no idea. But the moment that you give up and you stop fighting and pushing forward, that's when things go awry. You gotta keep pushing forward, no matter what it is. I'm not sitting here saying right now that everything's gonna work out for you. I'm not telling you that at all. I'm not saying that by any means, because I don't know what's in store for you. I don't know what your future holds for you. But I can tell you this much, that if you don't try and you don't keep pushing, you're never going to get anywhere. Right before I had my second TIPS procedure, my doctor called me in May and asked me to come down there because he wanted to speak to me. I went down there. My dad drove me down there that day. We went and spoke with him, and he said, I'm leaving the hospital. I want to retry your TIPS procedure. I think we could save your life. This is the same doctor who performed the first surgery, and I remembered all the pain that I went through. I remembered that it didn't work out. I said, I have to think about this. He said, that's fine, but I need an answer by tomorrow. I went home, and I talked to my wife about it. I spoke to my dad about it the whole way home. I talked to my mom. I talked to everybody. Friends. And the one person that changed my mind about it, because I was on the fence. And to be quite honest with you guys, I was not going to do it. I was just going to tell the doctor, I really appreciate the opportunity, but I'm just not willing to go through that again. And I'd gotten the fluid back off again. I didn't want him to irritate my liver like the last time, and the ascites to come back. I just didn't want to go through all that again. I didn't want to deal with all the scarring, because they went in through all these different places. I had multiple scars all over my body, and it took a long time for them to heal, and I just didn't want to do it. the chance of it working out, it just didn't seem like it was going to work. And not to mention, it was more money. I was going to have surgery again. And I spoke to my brother. And my brother said to me, hey man, if you don't do this, you're probably going to end up losing your life. He said, and if you don't take this chance, you're going to spend whatever time you have left to live wondering if you should have and what could have happened if you did. And after he said that to me, and then he also told me as well, he said, if you go have that surgery, I'll take you on a camping trip to the mountains. I hadn't been to the mountains in a long time, and I really wanted to go. And he promised me, my brother's got a camper, and he promised me, he said, as soon as you get out of that surgery and you feel up to it, I'm going to take you on a camping trip, just you and I. My brother and I hadn't gone anywhere together in a very long time, and I said, deal. Because what he said made so much sense to me. I didn't want to spend whatever time I had left sitting there in regret, wondering what if. So I took a leap of faith and I jumped for it and I did it. And guess what? It worked out that time. Now there was a whole lot of stuff that happened. I had to have surgery again the next day because I was bleeding internally, but it worked out. And they were able to go in there, break through that blood clot, which my doctor told me, he said, at some point, a clot's going to run through there because there was barely any opening at all, and the capillaries had grown all around that portal vein. He said at some point there's something's going to clog up those capillaries, and he said as soon as those capillaries close up, it's a done deal. Like, you will pass away after that happens. Like, there's no coming back. And he said there's no way for us to get through those capillaries. So I took a leap of faith. And it happened, and here I am. Now, I still have cirrhosis, I still have chronic pancreatitis, I still have diabetes, still have a bunch of stuff wrong with me, but I don't think about that stuff much. I just keep pushing forward every single day. And that's why I'm talking about this with you guys, because no matter what struggle you're going through in life right now, no matter what it is, it could be you and your spouse are in the middle of a divorce, or you're financially ruined right now and you're about to go bankrupt, or you're wondering how you're just going to pay your mortgage payment this month, or you haven't had a job in 6 months, and every application that you've put in, you haven't gotten one phone call back yet, and you're about to give up and say, I don't even know what else to do. No matter what it is, you got to keep pushing forward. The moment that you lay down and give up, it's over. But if you keep pushing forward, at least you tried. And you could say that you tried. And like I said, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that everything's going to work out for you, because it might not. Your health might fail. You might end up in the hospital tomorrow, and that might be it. I was just having this conversation with my brother yesterday. We don't know when our day is going to come. We have no idea. I know that my day is going to come soon at some point, you know, but we all are going to pass away at some point in this life. We do not have any guarantees. You know, I was talking to my brother about saving money yesterday, and, you know, like that we can't take it with us. It is, you know, you could think that you're so set up, because there was a point in a time when I thought I was so set up in life. I had saved up a bunch of money. I had all my debt paid off. Right before I ended up in the hospital, the first time, I had paid off all my debt. I had saved up a bunch of cash. I was often bragging about that, and you know, I was very cocky on the fact that I thought that I had set myself up, and well, that is ruined now. And that just proves that one day you could be here and the next day you could be here. You just never know what's going to happen. Life is full of surprises. It's full of change. And that's another thing too, is that when we push back against change, that's when things just start falling apart. You have to adapt to change. Change is just going to happen. It's part of life. It is if there is one constant in life, if there is one thing that stays constant in life, it's change. Things change. We change friends. We change relationships. We change houses. We change jobs. We change financial status. We change our education. We change from not having kids to having kids. Our lives change all the time, and in one instant our life could be going great, and then the next instant things could be looking like it's about to end. But you got to keep pushing forward, no matter what the issue is that you're dealing with right now. You got to keep pushing forward. I know that it can look like everything's just going to fall apart and you don't see any hope in the future. Just keep your head up and keep going. And especially if you're trying to stop drinking right now and you've relapsed over and over and over and over again, and every single time you relapse, you're like, I just can't keep doing this anymore. You got to try again. You just never know. This next time might be the time that it actually does stick. But you got to keep trying. Like I said earlier, you're not a failure until you just stop trying. If you keep trying, then you're doing everything that you can, and you're a warrior. You're pushing. You're doing everything you can to live, everything possible. Even though it looks like it's not going to work out or whatever, and you just keep doing it. Every time you fall down, you pick yourself up and you keep going. I know it sounds so cliche, but it is so true. There is a reason why so many people talk about this topic, about to keep fighting, keep pushing, don't give up, because there's been so many people who have been in similar situations as us, and they didn't give up. They kept fighting, and they made it, and they lived. Think about all these people that have been in situations in history where, you know, they were on a ship out in the middle of the ocean. They've been stranded out there with no food or water for days, but they stayed alive because they had hope. And then a ship came along and saved their life. This is what you're dealing with right now. I know you feel like you're a castaway floating around in the middle of the ocean with no hope in sight, but you never know. You might wake up one day and here comes a ship honking the horn. And they're coming to save your life, and they drop that ladder down to you, and you crawl up on that ship, and everything changes from that point forward. But you gotta keep hope. If you end up sitting out and floating out for the rest of your life, and you wake up and you're flying through the sky, well, you tried and it didn't work out. But the thing is that if you just give up, you throw yourself off the side of the life raft and, you know, give yourself to the sharks, there's no telling what you might have missed out on. You got to keep pushing. You never know what's in store for you. And the majority of the time, if we do fight, things work out. You know, it's all mental. If you keep thinking that it's not going to work out, keep thinking negatively, you're going to get negative results majority of the time. But if you think positive and you keep pushing forward, I'm not saying this always going to work out, but it can. So the point of today's video is, don't give up. Keep pushing forward. No matter how bleak your future looks, keep pushing forward. You just do not know what's in store for you. You are not a failure. As a matter of fact, you are a fighter. If you're watching this video right now, you're a fighter. Because you're watching this, you took the time to listen to me for 28 minutes right now, talking about this topic because you want to keep pushing forward. I believe in you. I really do. And that's why I'm here talking about this every single day. And speaking to all of you guys, because I truly do believe in each and every single one of you guys. I really, really do. Because at the end of the day, if I can do it, man, anybody can. I did not ever think this would happen. I never thought I would ever get sober. And I didn't think I was ever going to be able to come out of that hole that I was in when I was laying in that bed. But here I am. Don't give up. Keep fighting. You're not a failure. And I know you can do it. Guys, I love y'all so much. Thank you so much for watching today's video. And don't ever give up. See you guys tomorrow. Love y'all so much. Bye-bye.